you also explain to your cat why you are late? Do you ask your dog how its day went? Do you wait for an answer and somehow get it? Then I have news for you. This is not strange. It is your mind at work. Do you know what you have in common with about 80% of pet owners around the world? It's not the feeding schedule or regular visits to the vet. You talk to them, and you do it seriously, with feeling, and sometimes you even argue. And here's what's really interesting. It doesn't mean you're a little crazy. Quite the opposite. People who communicate with their animals possess a special form of intelligence that many are not even aware of. Moreover, this habit reveals deep processes of our psyche, which we will discuss today. And if you suddenly thought, actually, I don't talk to my cat, be sure to watch until the end. There will be a moment after which you may no longer be so sure. So, let's start with the main thing. When you say to your dog, "Why are you looking at me like that?" I explained why we're not going for a walk today. At that moment, amazing processes unfold in your brain. You engage a cognitive ability called anthropomorphism. This is the tendency to attribute human characteristics, emotions, and intentions to non-human beings. Sounds too scientific? In fact, it is one of the oldest and most useful human skills. Thanks to anthropomorphism, our ancestors learned to predict the behavior of animals, understand the world around them, and ultimately survive. When an ancient hunter thought, "This bear looks aggressive, I'd better stay away," he was using the same mechanism that you use when you say, "Mirka is upset that I didn't share my sausage." But here's what's most striking. Modern research shows that people who actively talk to animals usually have more developed social intelligence. They are better at picking up on nonverbal cues and recognizing the emotions and intentions of those around them. It turns out that your conversations with your hamster are not strange, but a kind of empathy training. Okay, we've figured out the intelligence part. But wait, there's an even more interesting part ahead. Have you ever noticed that you talk to your pets differently than you talk to people? And it's not just about cute intonations. What's important is how your manner of speaking changes. This is where the most fascinating psychology begins. Imagine, you come home and your cat rushes to meet you. What do you say? "Who's our good girl? Who's been missing me?" Yes, yes, it's you. Your voice becomes higher, your intonation brighter, and your sentences shorter and simpler. This phenomenon is called pet-directed speech, that is, speech directed at animals. And do you know what it resembles? The way we communicate, your pet becomes a safe listener. It will not judge you, interrupt you, or give you unsolicited advice. That is why many people admit that they confide in their animals things they would never tell another person. And this brings us to the next important thought, which is rarely considered. Imagine, you've had a hard day, problems at work, tension with loved ones, accumulated fatigue. You come home and the first thing you do is sit down next to your dog or pick up your cat and start recounting everything that happened. "You know, Rex, my boss was impossible again, and then I said something I shouldn't have, and now I have no idea how to fix it." In psychology, there is the concept of an emotional container. Someone who is able to accept our feelings safely without breaking down or rejecting us. And pets are perfect for this role. Why? They cannot express judgment. They will not give advice that you are not ready for. They will not remind you, "I told you so." They just stay by your side, and sometimes that's more than enough. What's more, research shows that levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, decrease when we talk about our experiences out loud, even if the listener doesn't understand the meaning of the words. The very act of verbalization triggers the brain's emotion processing mechanisms. Here's another interesting observation. People who regularly share their innermost thoughts with their pets have lower levels of anxiety and depression on average. Of course, a cat cannot replace a psychotherapist, but it can certainly become a significant part of your emotional support system. Now let's dig deeper. Because conversations with animals not only show how we experience emotions, but also reveal a lot about our personality. And now you are about to hear something that some people might prefer not to know about themselves. Psychologists can draw conclusions about a person simply by how and what they talk to their pet about. For example, people with high levels of neuroticism are more likely to ask their animals anxious, rhetorical questions about the future. "What should we do now? How will everything turn out? Everything will be okay, right?" Those with pronounced perfectionism tend to explain their decisions to their pets in detail, as if justifying themselves. I'm giving you this food because it's the best, you understand? Extroverts turn their contact with animals into a real performance. They change their voices, play roles, and come up with mini scenarios. Oh, Mr. Fluffy wants to go for a walk? Your carriage is already waiting. Introverts, on the other hand, behave differently. They speak to animals in a quiet, even voice, often sharing their thoughts about life and the meaning of what is happening. For them, a pet is more of a wise and silent conversation partner, and there is nothing unusual about that either. Any style of communication with an animal fulfills its own psychological purpose. For some, it is a way to reduce anxiety. For others, it is a chance to be themselves without social roles, and for others, it is a safe space where they can show care and a sense of control. But the most interesting part begins when we realize that sometimes pets know more about us than we do ourselves. How is this possible? Let's figure it out. Imagine a real-life scenario. Every day, a person complains to their cat about how tired they are from work and how they dream of quitting everything and doing something else. Day after day, week after week. And one day, repeating this again, he suddenly stops and thinks, if I say this every day, maybe it's time to change something? The pet becomes a mirror. Not because it literally reflects our emotions, but because when we talk to it, we begin to hear our own voice. This is reminiscent of the rubber duck effect in programming. When a developer can't find a bug in the code, they start explaining it line by line to a toy on the table. And it is in the process of explaining that the solution comes to them. The same thing happens with pets. By voicing our plans, worries, and thoughts, we organize them, notice inconsistencies, and begin to see recurring patterns. It's strange. I've been telling Mirka for 3 days now how much this person infuriates me. Maybe I should talk to him directly? What's more, animals don't interrupt, change the subject, or draw attention to themselves. They give you the opportunity to finish your thought. And that is invaluable. In psychotherapy, there is a technique called external observer, where a person learns to look at their story from the outside. Pets unwittingly help us take this position. By telling them about what happened, we seem to step outside and begin to notice what was hidden within the situation itself. And now we come to the question that you have probably already asked yourself. Is all this normal? Is there a line beyond which talking to an animal becomes a warning sign? Let's clarify. The good news is that in the vast majority of cases, talking to pets is completely healthy and even beneficial behavior. But, as with any psychological process, there are nuances. It is normal when you talk to an animal, understanding that the dialogue is essentially one-sided. You realize that your cat won't tell you whether you should change jobs, and you're just voicing your thoughts out loud. This is a natural form of self-reflection. It's also normal for your pet to be part of your support system, but not the only source of support. You still have friends, loved ones, and perhaps a specialist. An animal only complements this system, it does not replace it. The reason to think twice arises when you start to truly believe that your pet understands every phrase and gives meaningful advice. Barsik looked at me like that, so he's against this meeting. If such interpretations become the basis for serious decisions, it is probably useful to discuss this with someone. Another worrying moment is when conversations with animals completely replace communication with people. If you catch yourself thinking that it's easier to tell your cat about an important event because your friend won't understand, but your cat will, then you may be experiencing social isolation or relationship difficulties. But again, I want to emphasize that most often this is simply a warm, useful, and psychologically healthy part of our connection with animals. And do you know what is particularly beautiful about this story? The fact that evolution has created an amazing symbiosis between us and our pets. A connection that operates on levels we rarely think about. Here's an amazing fact. When you look into a dog's eyes, your body's oxytocin levels rise. This is the same hormone of love and attachment that is released when a mother looks at her child, when lovers embrace, or when friends spend time together. And the most incredible thing is that the same thing happens to the dog at that moment. You both biochemically experience a feeling of closeness. This is the result of tens of thousands of years of coevolution. Dogs have adapted to our attachment system. They have evolved alongside us, adjusting to human signals. That's why talking to them comes so naturally to us. The brain perceives them as members of its social group. With cats, it's a little different. They were domesticated later and retained greater independence, but they too have learned to meow in order to attract our attention. Studies show that the frequency and intonation of a cat's meow resembles a baby's cry. Coincidence? Hardly. When we talk to our pets, we are not just attributing human characteristics to them. We are participating in an ancient, evolution-tested dance of interaction. Our brains recognize them as social partners, and speech becomes a way to strengthen that bond. We've figured out the psychology and evolution. Now let's move on to the practical side. It turns out that the very manner in which you communicate with an animal can make your bond even stronger. Although pets don't understand most words, they are surprisingly sensitive to the tone of our voice. There are several scientifically proven approaches that help improve contact. The first is emotional sincerity. Animals are brilliant at picking up on the discrepancy between what you say and how you feel. If you say everything is fine, but you are tense inside, your dog will sense that tension. Therefore, the best option is to be honest. There is no need to pretend to be cheerful if you are sad. You can say, "I'm having a hard day. Will you stay with me?" Your pet won't understand the meaning of the words, but it will sense your sincerity, and that is what creates a deep connection. The second point is rituals. Predictability is extremely important for animals. If you greet your pet with the same phrase every morning, it becomes part of your shared routine. Such repetitions create a sense of stability and security for both your pet and you. The third way is to turn conversation into a practice of mindfulness. Instead of automatically petting your cat while scrolling through your feed, try to be fully present in the moment. Talk to them, observe their responses, stay in the here and now. This is an element of mindfulness that is beneficial for the psyche. And the fourth point is to allow yourself to be silly. It's true. Meow back, bark along with the dog, sing to the hamster. Play and spontaneity have a powerful therapeutic effect. In a world where we are constantly controlling ourselves and trying to look the right way, a pet becomes a place where you can be real, even if it looks ridiculous. So, let's summarize. When you talk to an animal, you are not just doing something cute and meaningless. You are developing your social intelligence. You are helping yourself process your feelings. You are learning sincerity and vulnerability in a safe environment. You are strengthening a bond that has been formed over thousands of years. You are giving yourself a chance to hear your own thoughts and look at life from the outside. This is not strange or a sign of loneliness. It is a sign that you are a social being capable of deep emotional intimacy, that you are able to show care, compassion, and attention to another living being. So next time you find yourself telling your cat about your weekend plans or asking your dog for their opinion on an important matter, don't be embarrassed. You are doing something very human, psychologically healthy, and evolutionarily justified. And even if your pet doesn't understand every word, it can sense that you love it, trust it, and include it in your life. And for your pet, and to be honest for you, that's more than enough. Thank you for staying with us until the end. If you recognize yourself in this, please like the video. And if your pet is nearby, go over and say something nice to them.